Welcome back to Momentous Struggle, a Star Wars Shatterpoint podcast. On this week's episode, Aubrey and I are going to be talking about running a Learn to Play event. So let's go ahead and jump on into it. Aubrey, you got your computer up and running. It took a little while to get there, but here we are. How we doing?
As somebody who does computer work for a job, I am impressed at how often my own computer fails me repeatedly just trying to record this podcast from week to week. Those of you watching on YouTube, I probably look a little grainy. That's because, well, frankly, I probably just need a new webcam. But also, I didn't do anything, Todd, and Riverside says that I'm using another app. I had to use Task Manager for the first time in years just to make sure I wasn't insane and that the only thing open on my computer was Riverside. Grumble,
Well,
grumble.
I can't talk to you not being insane. I mean, that's something that seems to,
How are you, Todd? Because I'm grumpy.
I'm good. No, I'm good. Haven't really gotten a lot of games in lately. I've been, doing a lot of painting. I did a Learn to Play like 2 weeks ago, and I'm painting up the core set for one of the people. Like, as soon as I did the Learn to Play, he immediately went and bought the core box, and so I'm like painting up all the miniatures for him. I got through 2 today, or 2 over the weekend. I got Anakin and Rex done and everything. And I don't know if you saw on the Discord, I went and picked up the models. He started assembling them, and somehow missed the little piece that goes into the butt of the of the 501st. So I had to kind of improvise with green stuff and destroying a Haas or a Gauss Reaper from one of the my Necron bits that I had from 40K to like kind of try and make something that looks like those little fanny packs that they wear. So yeah, that was interesting. It turned out not too bad. It's a little oversized, but whatever. It's better than a gaping hole in his ass. So
Phrasing, Todd. Phrasing. Those 501st gave me fits too. I actually had the same problem with my 501st, but just the little I'm sure it has a name in Star Wars, but I just call it his fanny pack. But like I didn't lose like the whole waist, but I lost the little tiny cylinder that slots in. That was my first experience of the joy that is mini assembly, where you are holding the piece in your hand, you go to slot it in, and it flies off into the night, and you're like, where'd it go? It's just gone.
Yep, that happens quite a bit. I'm glad he didn't try and assemble the B1s. So they're still on the sprue, which is I'm very thankful for, because I'm like I don't think I would have wanted to look at that, because there's been a lot I've been having to clean up some of the stuff and everything like that. Not too bad, but doing some cleanup and everything along those lines of like just miniatures, like getting like the little bits and bobs of the sprue that didn't shave off or whatever like that. So because he's never played any miniatures game ever before, so this was he's learning from ground zero type of a thing. But yeah, what you been up to, man?
Look at good guy Todd fixing the minis and getting it all ready for a new player. Now remember, did you do that for me when I started in my first minis game?
I wanted to watch you just kind of work through it.
Fine. Anyway, let's see. What have I been up to? So I went out on Friday over to Gamers Guild Tempe to get in a game with what is his name? Chimichangas? I think that's his.
Andrew.
I'm pretty sure that's his Discord name. Yeah, Andrew. And so that was my first experience playing against the new Delta Squad box, because he had it all proxied, and he was using like his because it's just a for fun game. So he's using like his Republic Commandos and Tech and Hunter as like stand-ins for the box, and
Hmm.
he paired it with just like the Anakin squad. So like Anakin Rex 501st was on the other side, and whoo. Oh, Todd, there's one thing to read those cards, and it's another thing to experience those abilities on the table. Whew, cause I'll admit, like I kind of, and I really got to stop having this like early advantage syndrome, or I don't know, I'm inventing something on the spot, cause I took a pretty quick like uh lead in early on in struggle one, and so like I was feeling pretty good. I was like at the point where like I had, because we were on Nevertell, and I had like the three of the points locked down, and like pretty good. Like in fact, K2SO was kind of bullying him at first because lockdown, that is a, ooh, that's a fun ability. Jerry, I understand now. I understand the Lobot love. I might have to pick me up some Lobot just so I could do some more lockdown shenanigans. Cause he, at one point, he had Anakin, the 501st, and I think like one other character like over on a point, and I just had K2SO because his attacks just kept going sideways on him, and K2SO just shrugs like, there's nothing you could do. I'm still here. La di
Hmm.
da. Uh, but then but then Delta Squad went, because it was kind of one of those things where like most of like one side, his order deck was like one side of the map, so like a lot of that, like the Anakin and 501st had gone, and so I hadn't experienced Delta Squad yet. Those guys kicked my teeth in when they started going. Oh
Hmm.
my word! Because I was playing the Cassian and Leia boxes. I've been still trying that out. Oh my word! Those guys are really good, Todd.
Yeah.
Oh, oh,
I
so
mean,
so
and the
that so that
like boss, like the force refresh on him, and just being able to do chip damage with the Delta give me an explosive solution. It's like, yeah, I mean, and like that chip damage. Like if you go with him early and then go into Anakin, like, and then have Anakin, it helps Anakin to get his wounds to move everybody. It can, I think, he can pair really well with Anakin.
yeah, and bear in mind he had like he did end up winning, but
Mm.
Anakin was not showing up for him at all. He had like three Anakin attacks where literally, like when I say K2SO just shrugged. What I actually mean is Anakin went all whiny emo Attack of the Clones Anakin and not Revenge of the Sith Anakin on K2SO. He did a double tap into K2 and only got one success on each attack. Like
Yeah.
he full attacked him, and I'm like, because I was like, oh, K2SO's going down now. Like the Anakin showed up, like, oh boy, here we go, and nope, nope. Anakin went, I don't like sand.
Yeah. And that's the problem with Anakin. Sometimes he just whiffs an attack, and it's really sad when he does that. Because I mean,
Yeah.
he
So
needs
so
to
that
get those three successes.
yeah, yeah. So that was kind of a thing. But he ended up pulling that one out. So it was a good game. Jerry showed up. He was going to show me how to play Legion, but like our first struggle, because of how weird it went with like the Anakin attacks. Like he did eventually win, but it was a slog. So we were still kind of finishing up our third struggle when Jerry showed up to show me to play how to play Legion. That was that was my first game with like a full army sized game. The the six, what is it, 6x3.
Hmm.
Uh, Todd, there's so many minis. There's so
Yeah.
many of them, and you have to put them all on the battlefield.
Yes. Yes, you do. Yeah, that's like I said.
Oh,
I mean, I don't. There's nothing wrong with it. I do like army games, but it's like there's something to be said about the niceness of having smaller skirmish level games and just, oh, I only need to bring these 16 minis and I'm good to go. And not I have to bring this case of 45, 50, 60 minis.
yeah, and I kind of get why they do it this way, because of like again, I lost like an ARF trooper like on the first like attack or whatever. Like just not even Jerry didn't even move his big old spider tank thing or the wheelie thing. I don't remember what they're called. Anyway, because we were playing Republic versus Separatists, because of course, thank you, Jerry, and he just fired from his deployment. It went, yeah, that thing's dead. I'm like, oh yeah, we're playing real army games where you guys die right away, and that was kind of an experience because I was confused. I was like, why is like our first turn like you get two actions Shatterpoint, but one of them is deploy. So like you put your leader out, and then you put the rest of the squad around him. And I'm like, why isn't there just a deploy phase, Todd? But I know this is like common for these styles of games. That, like you do deployment.
Yes and no. I don't think that's how it was until they changed to this current version of it. I think that's something that got updated. I think like now deploying onto the map is turn one where it wasn't before. Like that's just part of setup. Like in 40K, I mean, you can put things that can come into the game later, but you normally deploy before you start the round. So I think that's something new that they did to this one. Granted, I haven't played Legion, but I think this is part of the new update. They're Legion 2.0
okay.
or whatever
Yes,
they're calling
yes.
it now.
For those of you who also play Legion, any and all mistakes I make in this description are mine and not Jared's. I am going off of a very tired recollection. I am severely sleep deprived all this week, and then I chose to do very two long days on Friday and Saturday voluntarily on top of that. So yeah, but like it's super interesting because there's like the vehicles have like compulsory movement, like they have to move. So like that was a different experience, and then you have instead of just negative conditions, you also have like positive conditions that you keep track of too. And I know we have like focus and things that are like that, but like for example, you can just choose to dodge, and then that gives you like an advantage on your next defense. And then there's like, I thought this was super interesting. I don't know how this would work. This really wouldn't work in Shatterpoint, but there's like a standby where essentially you can get like Django's not so fast for anybody. So like if they get within range of you and you stand by, you'd be like, nah, bah, just shoot them in the face right away, like whenever they get near you. So there's some different things. To fast forward to my other event, because I played in a tournament, we were talking about like game design at the end, and I do think there's some interesting things. Like, do you think, Todd? I'm just gonna spring this on you. Do you think we'll ever see more conditions in Shatterpoint, or even maybe more positive conditions, not just negative ones?
I don't think as a core mechanic we would. You might end up seeing something like a character that can give like some sort of a positive condition or a negative condition, like something like that, where it's like, you have like a Yoda that can, or you have somebody can do like a force heal type of a thing that does like that puts like a positive condition or something like that. But I don't think it's going to be like a core, like if they were to do it, I don't think it would be a core mechanic. Like the core rules are set, but I think having something like that, unless they make a 2.0 of Shatterpoint at some point in time, but there's not really, I don't see that being in sight anytime soon because there's no reason for it. But I think you could see it in like stapled to a character where the character has like the ability to put a new condition or onto somebody, either positive or negative.
Yeah. We were talking idly about where do we think Shatterpoint may go, because it's still so new, right? Like you're talking about a 2.0, and it's like, oh man, we're barely into the third year.
I don't see that on the side anywhere in the like coming up or anything along those. I'm just saying that if we were to see that as a core mechanic type of a change, it wouldn't be until probably after, like at that point in time. And 2.0 is probably like, even if they were to go down that road, probably wouldn't be for like, 6 to 8 years. I mean, shoot, MCP's at year 6 now, and like no one's even thinking about that. So
yeah, exactly. So what I will say is, you know what I really like about Legion, Todd? They have droidicas and droid commandos, and they look super shiny and cool. And I wish that we had those in Shatterpoint so Chris could play with them.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, eventually that would be nice to hopefully get there at one point in time. I mean, it'll be interesting. I mean, I give it time. I don't think they would. I don't see them not getting to like that point. It's just there's too much of a desire for it, I guess. So no, I don't see it. I mean, but what, that game came out in? I mean, that game's 7 years old though, too. I mean, it came out in 2018. So Legion's been around for a minute. So, you have 7 years of models coming out that we just haven't seen. I mean, at some point in time, I'm sure we might get there with Shatterpoint.
Yeah. And so, I mean, just little things. There's interesting. You roll defense dice twice if you're in cover, because like you roll for cover, and then you roll like for a regular defense. So like that was interesting. You also this isn't like me trying to like bring stuff over to Shatterpoint. I like how Shatterpoint does this stuff, but you don't roll defense dice until after your opponent has attacked, and then you roll defense dice equal to their successes, because instead they have like three different kinds of dice. There's like I don't know what you call it. Like, well, there's a red dice, a white dice, and a black dice, and each one has different rates of like success and like attacking and blocking, and you combine them to make your dice pool. And so like you get different dice when you're defending versus like the cover and things like that. And I mean, I enjoyed it. It was a different experience. Am I running wholesale into the arms of Legion? No, I like the skirmish level game. I like that. But to quote Jerry, sometimes you need a beer and pretzels game. And I do think that Legion might be fun to like just if you're hanging out with somebody at their house and just kind of chilling, and you don't care that it's going to take you a few hours to play a game because you're just chatting and having a drink and having a good time. Like I probably will at least get my clone trooper half of that box finished and painted up, so I've got something, because remember, I've had that starter set for like 2 years. I got it at Christmas like 2 years ago. Like I probably should actually finish it off.
Well, and I know they have a bunch of starter sets coming out, like where you could just sit there and buy starter sets for each affiliation, faction, whatever you call it there. So there is that coming up too, because I think those will be coming out, which they look cool. I mean, it looks like a good way to jump into the game if you're gonna looking to jump into it too. So, but yeah, I mean, then you also played an event on Saturday. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say if nothing else, that whole concept of getting to like build your own, because they have a concept of like leaders, right? So like Obi-Wan and Quody were like the leaders of the army that Jerry put together for me. But like I don't even care, even without knowing anything about Legion or knowing if I even wanted to play Legion, that whole thing where you could get your own leader and like make a Jedi Knight that's like your Jedi Knight leader that they announced at Adepticon. I wanted to buy that box just for the sake of doing that. I knowing nothing about Legion or anything, I was like, no, that's cool. I want that.
Yep. No, that looks cool. I mean, like that. There's just, you could make a generic Jedi or what have you to sit there and be your leader. It seems pretty neat.
Yeah. Okay, so then Matt Bogler, who is the event organizer for Smite Club, for those of you who have no idea who I'm talking about, he invited us over to his house for a tournament, and I'm the one who threw the wrench and everything, because they had a nice even 6 players, and then I was like, but I can come too. So then there was a bye. Because someone else was being responsible and taking care of his kids that day. I don't know who that was.
Yep. No, it was one of those, like, by the time I could get over there, I'm like, it was just too late. It was like I don't like showing up late to things, so it just wasn't going to happen.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to exist if I had to show up on time to things, Todd. I would just turn into a puddle on the spot.
Yeah. No, that the military in me has that ingrained, man. I just can't be late.
That's fair. That's fair. So anyway, it was set up as a premiere style event. We only did 3 rounds. There was a bye, of course. So which good guy Matt just kind of gave himself the bye twice. Like I kind of felt bad. He only played 1 round at his house, but so be it. So the first round, and again, I'm still trying. Although spoilers, I think I'm gonna have to move away from this. I think you're just still stretched too thin. I was trying my full Rebel premiere list, so it's well, this iteration, because I don't have Fulcrum right now, is Hurricanein is the one list, and it's just kind of classics. It's the usual suspects as Ezra, Sabine, Chopper, Rebel Commandos. Done that list we all know well, and then the Cassian box as is, the Leia PLC Leia box as is. That's what I'm running with. So first round, I end up playing against Nesquik Nick. Oh my word! And oh, that game started with Sabine needed one shove, or no. Did I need 2 shoves? Maybe I needed 2 shoves. All I know is it's Sabine. You need 2 shoves. You can get 2 shoves with Sabine. I rolled 0 successes. 0 successes.
That's pretty impressive.
And that's kind of how the like 3 or 4 of my rolls went. But also, he was playing a super awesome list that I'm totally having ADHD. I want to try it now. He was running Mando, Bo-Katan, Coverts, and sorry if this was a secret, buddy, but I mean I'm on a podcast and you didn't tell me not to talk about it. And then the other side was Kiadi, Shakti, 501st.
Okay.
Because Shakti can move every single Mando. They're all
scoundrels.
mercenaries.
Mercenaries, yeah.
Or mercenary, yeah. Or well, I don't know if Bo-Katan is, but I know Mando and Coverts are. And so, oh my word, he has access to 7 Force because it's Mando. So you don't even need armor's tax really to keep to take care of the Mandos, because you just pay for everything with Shakti. And then like you have diceless displacement in the form of Kiadi, Shakti, and Mando, Clan of 2. So you have 3 different models that can push things off. Like it was so much fun to watch as I got systematically destroyed by him.
I mean, to be fair, Nick did finish in the top 16 at Worlds this past year, so he's no slouch. So.
Oh yeah, no, this was a stacked room, everyone. The players were in fact Matt Booker, Purest of Christophers, Nick, Austin. Locals should know him. The spoilers. I finally got to play a game against him, and he was determined. He kept trying to get Matt to change the pairings just so that we would get paired up. I'm kidding. And of course, me and Matt, holding up the foundations, I suppose.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Was that? Oh, and Andrew. Oh, yeah. Andrew was there.
Andrew was there too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, Andrew. I'm like, I know I'm forgetting one other person. There's anyway.
But yeah, I mean, there was there's some real quality players for just a local house tournament.
Right. We're like, oh, we're just playing for fun and having a barbecue and playing, and I'm like, half of the room has been to Adepticon Worlds and plays. You're like,
right.
Oh.
Yeah. Half the room is made the cut at Adepticon, so yeah.
yeah. So then I get the bye, and this will come up. I'll talk about this later, but I ended up getting thrown into a Learn to Play with Matt's kids, which is super funny. I was simultaneously playing like Peekaboo and Open Gate, Close Gate with the 2 younger kids, while trying to teach the 2 older kids how to actually play Shatterpoint. So I had fun. I don't know if, I think I was traumatizing Matt Booker with how I was messing with the kids because they're kids, and I mean, The parent in me was like because the older of the two boys, he's like, oh yeah, I know how to play, and then immediately his first action was to try and climb with the advanced tool onto a building, and I was like, excuse me, sir, I thought you said you knew how to play, because he kept adamantly, like, every time I would explain something to him, he'd be like, no, my dad showed me, I got this. I'm like, do you now? Do you now, child? So that, like, that, I had fun. I don't know if everybody would be happy about getting thrown into a learn to play with small children while their other small children are beating on you, but I enjoyed myself.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah. But then we have to talk about my game with Austin. Because Austin, I'm calling you out right now, Cad Bane was bullying me, and I don't like it. So, again, I'd only played the Kanan Hera list round 1. I had the buy, and I was like, you know what? I just want to play with Cassie and Leia. And he had Grievous, Cad, and I don't remember what his other premiere list was, but I was like, I like Cassie and Leia into most things, so I was like, I'm just running that. So he flips over Grievous Cad, and hey Todd, you've played Cad a lot. What happens if he wounds your models and you're playing a revenge list? What happens, Todd?
For when he wounds your bottles?
Yeah, well, with his pew pew pew, with his 2 damaged ability, not.
Oh, how that doesn't go off because it's not a combat action?
Yeah. Yeah, my PLC Leia got wounded 3 times.
That's awesome.
3 times. And pretty much all of the other wounds were from Cad Bane going, I'm a gunslinger. I'm a cowboy in space. Pew, 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 pew. Over and over and over. He got 7 wounds on me by the end of that game, and we added it up. I only got like one revenge attack, 1 or 2 revenge attacks.
That's fantastic.
Out of those 7 wounds, because
Yep.
he moved Cad up super early, and I almost wounded him, but I wasn't able to close it out. And then the way the rest of the order deck and everything went, I never had a good opportunity to actually wound Cad. Like, well, I mean, I could have, but it would have been the strategically wrong decision. I needed... remind me, Todd, are we supposed to wound models or score objectives in this game?
Score objectives. That's what you're supposed to do. But sometimes people lose track of that.
Yeah, so I made the right strategic decision every time, but as a result, over time, Cad, because I left him on like 2 health, but Cad like slowly healed himself back up while pew-pew-pewing everyone to death, and... Yeah, this is what's making me revisit my list. I think I need to do Rebel Premier 1/2 and then something else, because it just felt like I was a little bit like diluted, and it showed in this configuration, because like Luke's good, but he's a little squishy. Han and Chewie are very good, but also a little squishy. And I'm running into like he was playing Grievous, Jango, B2s on that side, and then Cad, Shakti, because Shakti's everywhere. And spoilers, I think I probably should be playing Shakti too, because Shakti kept bullying me all day. And what was his other support? Cad. Weequay Pirates! Todd!
Yep. They were good.
Those little buggers are annoying now.
Yeah. Yeah, they're good.
Oh, yeah, no, I might have to actually pick up a Hondo box and maybe a Lando box, because I want to play with your favorite action figure, because Lockdown was super mean, and I got to pick up a Jin box, but also I have no money right now because it's the start of the school year.
That is a thing. That is a thing.
And there you go, story time with Aubrey.
Yeah, sounds like you had a good weekend though. Sounds like you had a good weekend. Yeah, like I said, I've just been painting and stuff like that. But all right, well, I mean, I guess like you since you did your learn to play there, I think that's kind of a good place to jump into like kind of the main topic and everything like that of doing a learn to play, because I think I was listening to Between Two Sprues, and Two Legs was saying how he was doing a learn to play for somebody, and it was really hard. And I'm like, well, I don't think should be hard, but I can see how it can be if you like don't sit there and kind of like prepare yourself for it. And that was kind of, I guess, the thing that I wanted to kind of talk about was like, what are like, are people taking the steps to prepare for doing a learn to play, and that way they're actually running the event or at least the game to where it's benefiting the player the you're teaching the most. So I don't know. I mean, it's, and you've done a couple of different learn to plays also, like at Fan Fusion stuff like that. So I kind of wanted to start by saying like, or looking at like even before you go to the event, like what kind of things are you doing to prepare yourself to sit there and do a learn to play?
Oh, so I mean, I'm a little fortunate in that I was able to get my hands on a copy of one of those early store initiation kits that they sent out when the game was new, and
Mm-hmm.
so I kind of try to follow that model because I mean, when the developers give you a tool for learn to play, don't fix it if it ain't broken. So
Right.
I tend to make sure that I have that all set up. I try to. I also have like a printout of that back page on the rules list that has like all of the it has like all the symbols and like the names of everything. Trying to think of
Mm-hmm.
everything that's on there, but you know what I'm talking about. They have that page with all the quick
Yeah.
guide stuff. There's also in that store kit. There's a small card version of it, and so
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I make sure to bring plenty of stuff, plenty of reference materials and things that people can look at because there's a lot of things to remember. I mean, even I was not prepared for a learn to play yesterday, and so I didn't have any of those things. So I mean, I what happens is you kind of start shortcutting stuff. You start saying like long move, short move, this thing, that thing, and but if you're doing like a fully prepared learn to play event,
Mm-hmm.
you kind of want to make sure you get the terminology right, and it's a lot easier if you have all of that available for your new players. And so like I have two copies of that I put on each side of the table so that people can look at it. I mean the obvious stuff I mean I'll just bring it up for the sake of bringing it up. Make sure that you have enough minis for both sides of the table. They're not going to have anything. Make sure you have terrain that isn't too complex. Like this is where I often will just bring like the core set terrain. Like, and I won't even set up a full table of terrain because that can be a little overwhelming for a new player. And remember everybody, when we first started playing, what did we have? We had the core set. Like maybe you bought a high ground or a take cover because they came out at the same time, but overall, we were just playing with core set terrain, and that's okay, especially for a learn to play. You don't want to have a lot of complicated table setups, and use shifting. Don't use anything else. Just bring shifting. Shifting is what we all learn to play on, and there's a reason for it. It has no bonus things you have to keep track of. And and the addendum to that is in the learn to play store thing, they only play on the middle three objectives. They don't turn on all the objectives. Like you can show them because you're teaching them, hey, there's three more objectives. I'm going to have them out on the table so you can see where they are and kind of understand this. But we're only going to play on the three objectives in the middle. At least that's how the store guide recommends it. And I even go one step further. I usually have the priority objectives because it makes it go faster. Because if you're just playing on three objectives like standard, it can feel a little sloggy back and forth, and you kind of end up beating on each other. Whereas if you run the priority objectives, um, basically, my point is part of your preparation is make sure you have a plan. You don't have to listen to me on this respect if you want to just play a regular mission, sure. But this gives like be prepared for what mission, what you're bringing. I try to bring both. Like, I mean, I have a big collection, but I try to bring both rebels and empire and like republic and separatists because you get prequel fans, you get regular fans. Well, regular fans, OT fans. um, so that kind of thing. Because I'll ask. I kind of gotten over asking players, well, who are your favorite characters? Who do you want to play? Because a lot of times they get like decision paralysis about that, and they're like, and I go, what era of Star Wars do you want to play? Do you want to play Rebels versus Empire? Do you want to play, Separatists versus Republic? Like, what time period do you want to play in?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, so
What do you think?
well, no, I go a little bit differently because I mean, for me, it's like one, I don't have access to that kit that you have, and I know that like people that are maybe listening that they're not going to have access to that learn to play kit that came out at the beginning. I think the store that I ran the learn to play probably had that, but didn't provide it to me. So I mean, sometimes
Aw.
you're just going to have to kind of go on your own. So I mean, like for me, what I'm usually doing is I'm looking at using just the core set models simply because if they're gonna buy the game, that's like they're learning with what they're gonna start out with type of a thing. So I usually make sure that like I have all the good guys and the bad guys of the core set. I have all the cards. Have my mat, have the terrain. All of your tokens that you're going to be needing, just make sure that you have like all the pieces to play the game is I think the biggest piece of it. So, and like I said, I just go with what comes in the core set.
Doubles. Remember, you need doubles of everything.
Yeah.
Which, because, I mean, yeah, you can share the range tools back. Like, I'm not advocating buy a whole extra set of everything to make your life easier. I get it. Money is money. But if you can, having an extra set of range tools, having an extra, of the movement tools, having enough tokens between the two of you. I mean, the core set comes with a lot of stuff. Not saying it's not, but I figure most of us have probably bought a second set of dice, and so like that's helpful. Like it might be a little bit of commitment of money to make your life easier, but just bear in mind if you don't, you're going to be sharing a lot back and forth, and that can kind
Yeah.
of slow you down. And
Yeah. No,
and I
I
will
have
add.
doubles.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I will add, you don't need like that whole kit that just makes it easier because it has cards that explain it. It's literally just you play shifting priorities, struggle 2, and you only have the 3 objectives in the middle going. And you just pick you pick whatever you want for the priority objectives. You just put them out in the center. So you don't need the kit I was describing. That was my explanation of where I got the idea from. Like, I don't want to take credit away from whoever made that kit because, like, that wasn't my idea. That was the kit setup.
No, absolutely. And I think that's I mean the kit's a great idea. Like I said, I think the problem is like it's just not always going to be available for every person um that plays the game or is going to be teaching the game or something along those lines. So you kind of have to make do with what you kind of have. And like you had mentioned the back page of the learn to play and everything along, or of the rule book and how it has some of the information there that's kind of useful to use. I think that's kind of lacking, I think, in my opinion. Yeah, the attack sequence on there is good. The dice face thing is really good. And like the turn sequence and everything along those lines. But it's missing stuff that I think like some players are going to use. I kind of made something of my own. This kind of like a double-sided thing that I'm getting. I'm going to laminate to sit there and take to players because it has like, for what I have is also has, I took those icons and the dice faces because those are important so that people can see those. But it also has breaking down active, reactive, and innate, like that little piece from the book, as well as like what activating units, what they can do. So like that way, like someone, they know they can look and go, oh, I can move, I can focus, I can take a combat action, I can use an ability, I can recover, I can take action. Because a lot of times it's like the first time that a player is looking at it, they're like, well, what can I do? Type of a thing. So there's a lot of that. And I also have on there what the different icons are, like what the different, I should say, conditions are. So strain, disarm, expose, and it actually has like the icon for each one of those, and what that actually means. So I cut that out, put on the sheet, as well as like the different effects, like as far as like what damage is, what shoves is, like when from the tree, and it has like all of those as well. So it's like they can flip back and forth and look at those because I think that helps to have a lot of those important references to them available to new players. So that's something that like I've made. That's probably maybe a little more detailed, but I think is probably a little more helpful for players.
Yeah, I have. I also have that. That was going to be my next thing. So, yep, I have one. I have another document that's a little more detailed that has
Mm-hmm.
all of that information in it too. Yeah.
Yeah, like the back page is good. It just doesn't have enough. I think for like a learn to play. I think it's like for someone who's maybe like already like learned the game. I think that's probably pretty good there. But as far as like it, I think it's lacking for like a good resource for a learn to play. So
Yeah,
all right, so
I just
yeah,
use both.
fair enough, fair enough. So yeah, when you're like, so when you're moving forward to like the actually having a player come in, like come up and say, hey, what's this? I mean, kind of like, how does that conversation for you go?
So I try to figure out their interest, like what is why'd they stop? What are they going? What's their background? So this is where haha, social time, everybody. And I know this is harder for some people than others, but you kind of got to talk to them. You got to find out like are were they just in the shop buying magic cards and then they saw these cool buildings over here? That's going to be a very different conversation from say the 40K player behind you who just finished his game and is packing up his models and is like, "Hey, I've never seen this game before. What's this?" So
Mm.
you're gonna have a different conversation depending on the person. But I kind of just try to use that to gauge their interest. Do they love Rebels and Clone Wars? Well, then I like to lean in and talk about how this game pretty much feels like an episode of one of those shows, and that you're fighting over your characters are on a mission, or you're trying to stop your opponents from completing a mission, kind of idea. And I lean into that. If they're a big Star Wars fan, this is when I usually go, well, hey, if you want to try a few turns, I've got Rebels, Empire, I've got separatists, Republic. Now I do agree with you. If I'm doing like a formal learn to play where I don't have somebody showing up and it's not like
Mm.
scheduled in advance, yeah, I usually just set up the core set so that I can reference the core set. So I guess I should say, like, there's different versions of learn to play. Like sometimes people ask you in the Discord, "Can you come and teach me how to play?" That is a different learn to play event from one where a store has asked you to
Yeah.
come and showcase their event. So like if a store is asking me to showcase, yeah, I'm probably just doing core set models and being like, hey, this is what's in that box. Do you want to buy that box? Yeah, you should buy that box. Whereas if somebody's asking me, because you get that kind too, then I usually do my, well, what's your favorite? Because I know there's Star Wars. If they saw us out, they're probably a Star Wars fan, right?
You're right.
It's a little different. They're looking for Shatterpoint. They're looking for this game. That's a different experience. So
Yeah.
I don't know. You got any more thoughts on that? Because it's one of those things where the conversation does depend on the context.
Yeah, it does. Typically, like, well, the first thing I've noticed that I ask is like, what's your experience with miniature gaming? Just to kind of see where the first couple of turns are going to go. Because if someone's never played a miniature game before, the idea of just moving a miniature from one place to another is maybe not like not as intuitive as it would be for someone who's played 40K for a couple of years, where they know, oh, I just sit there and measure out and I can put them and then I move everything in cohesion. Like for like I said, for someone who's never played before, okay, like just explaining, okay, this is the movement tool, this is how you place it down. That's something that is a different conversation than an experienced gamer. So, but yeah, I definitely that's one of the probably the first thing I ask is, what's your experience with that? Also, what's their experience with any type of gaming? Do they just play card games, or do they just play board games? So there's all sorts of different gaming experiences, and you can kind of take whatever those different experiences are and try and find ways to relate that to what you're doing with this particular game. And also, like throughout the course, right, maybe try and find out, like you were saying, why are you interested in Shatterpoint? What made you walk over to this table and look at look at these things? That, well, what's your favorite Star Wars, and kind of get into that conversation a little bit more. Because, like you said, if they're gonna like usually if there's some coming to buy the game, you're gonna start with the core box, but then here's the other things that you can sit there that are more along your favorite characters, and here's kind of how they play, and you can have that conversation after you start learning. But it's like getting to know the person that you're playing the game with. I mean, because like there is a social aspect to the game, so you definitely want to dive into that a little bit, lean into that social aspect, because if this is someone that you're going to bring into the community, you want to make sure that you're welcoming and everything along those lines.
Yeah, and to those lines, and this is going to be unique to you, but think of a few metaphors or analogies that you're comfortable with explaining. For example, at Phoenix Fan Fusion, you get a lot of people who are not miniatures gamers or not even like really. I don't know what the right word is. They're
They've
not
played
even really
Monopoly,
like.
and that's about it.
Yeah, they're not like I don't want to say they're not gamers because if you play a game, you're a gamer. But like they've played like very basic games, and now
Yeah.
they're like, "What's this AT-AT doing over here? I want to play this board game." And you're like, "Well, actually." um,
Yeah.
so like for example, one thing I've tried to do because like especially at a con, you get a lot of D&D players, and so I was like, "Well, this is like." The combat of D&D. Like there's not really a narrative element to it, although I know we have alternate game modes where there's more narrative involved, but we're not don't get bogged down by explaining everything. They're already going to have too much information plugged into their brain if they actually do a full learn to play game with you. So don't get bogged down. Keep it simple. And so like I just say, "Oh, yeah, this is like D&D but you're just doing the combat." And that's all I say. I don't dig into it deeper because what do we know about D&D combat? You roll dice, and then after you've rolled dice, you check to see if you've actually hit the monster. Then you figure out how much damage you do. What does that sound like, everybody?
Yeah, combat. Exactly.
Right? The
It's
combat tree,
very,
you check your
yep.
successes, right?
Mhm.
It's similar, right? Game design is a game design for a reason. Like there's reasons why it works. So just figure out a few examples, and like if they're a Star Wars fan, then yeah, I lean into the whole Rebels Clone War thing. If they're experienced gamer, I go, or war gamer, then I go, well, this is a skirmish level. Objective scoring game. Like I immediately start leaning into what version of tabletop wargaming this is. So just be prepared to have different levels of explanation because you don't know what kind of player you're going to get.
Yeah, I mean, and like that, it allows you to potentially, like, if it is an experienced tabletop wargamer, it allows you to use maybe more common terminology that they'll catch on to that someone who has only played Monopoly and Sorry may not be able to pick up on. So there's definitely, like you have to tailor your conversation to your audience, and I think that's one of the big things that you're doing there is that piece of it. So it's definitely one of the things that I kind of look at when I'm going into that. But so going into your actual playing the game and everything like that. This is one of the things, like I remember I was talking with you about it. I kind of like try to have a plan of what I'm going to do and how the game is going to go. So I kind of stack the deck for each player, and that way when they go to play, it's like, okay, I know exactly who they're going to pull, and I can have a suggestion as to here's what I would do if I was playing this character. This is where I would move. This is what I would do. So I think like usually if whoever is going, like if you're going first as as the Anakin side of the board, typically I have Rex as the first activation because Rex can move somebody, and then he can sit there and go and move himself forward, do a defensive maneuver, take cover, and get onto one of those front points. And then normally the second action is going to be, I usually have as like Kalani, and then Kalani can do his thing where he's moving the battle droids, and then he can move himself, and usually is able to get a shot into into Rex. Usually it's not enough to kill Rex, but then it usually, that's when I can immediately go into, all right, now here's how I use why am I drawing a blank on his ability? But the
I'm
where
always I'm always first, kid, right?
no, Kalani's ability, where Kalani can sit there
Oh,
and
tactical network.
tactical network, yeah. So where he can go in and use one of the droids to sit there and do it. So basically, kind of stacking the deck in a way that allows for all of the abilities to get used. Then it's usually going with like the different characters that way, and usually like the third to fourth card in the deck for each player is usually the Shatterpoint card. That way they can sit there and learn like how to, who do and that's usually by that point in time, usually it's the fourth card of the deck. That way they've had an ability to use like a secondary, a primary, maybe a support. And then they see how everybody works, and they can sit there and go, okay, now I'm going to use the Shatterpoint card and really have that ability to use something really cool. And that's kind of when I turned the game over to the players at that point in time, because they've each done 3 activations. But I have a story to go along with it, kind of in a way where it's like because some people, if they're getting into the narrative, maybe have a little bit of a narrative to there, especially like usually by the time Anakin comes up, it's like, well, now Anakin's like this far forward because Rex, ideally Rex has already moved him when I had him activate Rex first. So like now Anakin can sit there and run forward, make a movement, jump, and he's usually in range. Like, do you want to go after him and everything like that? So, and usually there's like, I've planned it to where there's a target soft enough to where he can get a wound, and something along those lines. So it's kind of really just planning out how the game's going to go, stacking it in a way that both players are able to sit there and wound somebody and everything along those lines, as long as the dice don't sit there and do what dice are supposed to do, and everything along those lines.
That's a good lesson too.
Right. But yeah, I mean, how about you?
I was just gonna say, can I just say, Todd, I think this is hilarious, and we already had this conversation, but I'm having it again for the listeners. I do this in my Pokemon club. Like, I mean, I do randomize the deck, but if one kid is having a rough time and the other one's not, I literally go, all right, kids, you're not allowed to do this, but I'm going to look at like the next 5 cards of your deck, because if they don't have energy for 5 turns, for those of you who played Pokemon, you're dead in the water. And I think it's funny that it never occurred to me to do this for Shatterpoint until you said it, and I was like, oh my word, that's like, I already do this for the kids when I'm teaching them at the library. I was like, why don't I do this for the grown-ups? It's a great idea. So yeah, I'm definitely stealing that for like the next time I do a learn to play, because it's fantastic. Because this is the other thing you kind of have to understand, depending on the kind of learn to play event you're at, especially if it's like the ones at Gamers Guild where there's a bunch of learn to play games happening all at once. You're going to get some people, and this happened at Phoenix Fan Fusion too, you're going to get some people who are like, oh, I'm really into this, and I'm going to play a whole game with you for the next hour and a half. And that's awesome. Those are the people that are probably going to buy the core set. So be extra nice to them. But you're also going to get the people that are like, well, can I just try a turn? Yeah. And so what I'll often do if I'm not there by myself is, if it's like you and me, for example, is because there'll be some downtime where there's a lull where you're just not doing anything. So like usually if you have access to the space, you have like more than one table set up, one where you can just jump into a full game, and then one where you kind of have a game that's ongoing, and people will just plug themselves into a turn. And you kind of have to work on the fly, where you're like, all right, well, this is what's happening right now. On last week's episode of Clone Wars, like,
right,
and so you kind of got to lean into it, and maybe by the end of one turn, they're already overloaded, and that doesn't mean they're not interested in the game, but if they've already been learning to play, like, Necromunda over there, or Age of Sigmar over there, and you're like the third table they've gone to try out a game because they're just figuring out their next game, their brains might be done. they might be a little fried, and they might just do 1 or 2 turns with you. And you know what? That's okay. That's baby steps.
Yeah.
Baby steps. And so
you
gotta be prepared for different ranges of what your learn to play is gonna look like, and that's okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think I had a guy come down. He was like in town from up in Flagstaff, which is like 3 hours away from us or something. And he came in and like wanted to get a learn to play. Never played a miniatures game before in his life. And I started explaining, some of the rules and everything along those lines. And before we even got to the first character activation, he just looked at me and goes, I'm overwhelmed. And so it was like I literally had to take a step back and wait for and basically find another game that was going on so that he could just sit there and watch them play the game, because that's all he could handle. What, as far as like the gameplay itself, was just like watching someone else play. And then I think eventually I started playing another game. He came over and sat and kind of just watched, never even took a turn himself, but just kind of watched other people play. And that's all he could handle was that. I mean, and sometimes you might get a player like that. Like at some of these, if you're running a learn to play event where it's like someone just shows up and like the idea of doing an activation might be like just a little bit too intense for them. So like that can happen sometimes.
Yeah, and to that end, you might be tempted if, like, say, a couple shows up and they're interested in the game. You might be tempted to split them up and put them on each side of the table, and you play referee. The other option, and I will give it to them, is remember, Shatterpoint lends itself very well to being like a 2v2 kind of game, and having them work together as a team can reduce some of that mental load. So I would give them the option, depending on their skill level and experience. Again, I know we keep saying it depends, but a lot of this really depends on, what their background is, and you've got to shift your teaching to match where they are. And so putting them together as a team, it's fine. You can run a whole table by yourself. You're a Shatterpoint player. You know what you're doing. And they can just focus on one squad, and they flip over Anakin. Well, it's the Anakin's on her side of the table. She's running Anakin, all right? Obi-Wan's on his side of the table, or whatever, probably Ahsoka. Ahsoka's on his side of the table. All right, now it's his turn. He's running Ahsoka. And then that way they can help each other and make it a little easier. The other thing, I haven't tried this yet. This is a Matt Bogler idea. He came up with the idea of setting up an even smaller table where, like, instead of a 3x3, and I don't know how I feel about this. This might be maybe more for like kids. Like, I'm just giving you options, everybody. He had like more of like a magic sized playmat, and he just put the buildings in the middle, and he literally just had you deploy like from the edge. I think it was a little bigger than a magic mat, like maybe a 2x2. Mm-hmm. But he set up a smaller table and did that. So if you know in advance that you're going to be dealing with a crowd that maybe is younger, or you think they're going to be overwhelmed by it, and I know this is hard, that's just another option for you. I recommend as much as possible showing them the full game, even if you're not using all of the board for the full game. But if you know in advance you're going to be dealing with a group like this where they're going to be like, oh my word, this is too much, there's another idea for you.
Well, I kind of like that to maybe like, so like say, for example, you're at a store, you're doing a learn to play, you have like a full-size table set up for doing like maybe those people that want to sit there and play like kind of a full game or something like that. But when you have those people that kind of swing by and be like, what is this? And you just have maybe something with like a couple pieces of terrain and something off to the side with just like, well, here's like a condensed version of kind of how the game works. And you can just sit there, here's a move, here's an attack, here's this, that, here's that. And you can kind of just have that to show like a single turn and how a single turn works. You could probably use that. That would probably be something good to like do a quick 5-minute explanation of like the game itself. I could see that being a useful tool. I wouldn't want to lean into that as the primary mode of doing a learn to play, but I could see that as like, well, I have these two people occupying this big table. Here, let me show you kind of like the gist of how this works on a smaller scale.
Yeah, and And bear in mind, people are going to make mistakes. They're going to get confused. They're going to ask you questions over and over. This is where, emotional regulation, patience. I mean, I was doing that. Uh, I was running on about half the amount of sleep that a human being needs this week. And then I played a full game of Shatterpoint against the Delta Squad for the first time. And then I rolled up at like 9 p.m. to Jerry's table that he dutifully set up and was waiting for me. And then I had to ask him, I was like, what's suppression again? What's the symbol on the dice again? Which movement tool am I supposed to use? Because they have like a short, a medium, and a long. I was like, where's the range tool again? Like they're gonna be, even if they're quick on the uptake. They're remember, you have a ton of vernacular and jargon and gameplay and experience downloaded into your brain from all of your experience already, and they got nothing. They don't know what's going on. So, they're gonna pick up the long tool and be like, "Do I tilt it at 45 to get onto this bridge?" And you're like, "No, no, 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 no. That's not how it works."
Yeah.
Because remember, even from other tabletop games, even if they have experience, the verticality of this game is very different. The climbing and how movement works is very different. Like, even if they're an MCP player, which is pretty dang close, they're still gonna be like, "Wait, everyone moves the same? What?"
Yeah. No, there's definitely very differences, like from every game. I mean, especially like how we look at going up elevation, like that, and how that impacts. It's like, no, it doesn't matter how high you're going up. You can just, if you're climbing, you can go all the way to the top of this building, no matter how high it is. And that's not something that like is common in other games. So yeah, there's always differences. So for sure. So definitely keep that in mind when if you're doing some learn to plays, that sometimes even our rules, like they might carry like elevation, something that's in every miniatures game, but our the way that we deal with elevation is different. Same with cover, and like that's a whole different thing. Like cover can be very different from game to game. Line of sight is very different. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and even like terminology. So because my first game was or tabletop wargaming game was Shatterpoint, I didn't understand like say at Adepticon, people kept talking about wounds all the time, and I'm like, your guy's not wounded. You just have like 3 damage on him. Well, now I know that's because a lot of other game systems uses the term wounds to describe damage.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going. This is like just a thing that we talk about as professionals. We have words that we use in our profession. Like I talk about very regularly. I talk about the metadata of my integrated library system. You know what I'm talking about, Todd?
Meta. Yeah, that's Facebook.
Well, I'm talking about the data stored in our inventory system. See how that was? See how that was different?
That's
right?
not Facebook.
Like, no, that's not Facebook. But also, like,
Nope.
remember that it's okay. Like, yes, you're teaching them a bunch of mechanics and a bunch of keywords and things that they do need to learn. But also remember that they're not going to know what the difference between an advance and a reposition is. That like, what the heck? They're not going to know why a climb is different from a jump. Like, they're like none of that means anything to them. So don't just start throwing the Shatterpoint words at them, thinking they'll catch on. There's always more to explain than you think there is, but also do it in a way that isn't overwhelming. Like, this is what I do with both Pokemon and with this, and even with the kids, it was a little harder because they had played Shatterpoint before. But I always tell them, like, if they have a little bit of experience, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna explain this to you like you know nothing. And also, I'm not going to explain everything to you all at once. Because if you sit there for 30 minutes explaining abilities and actions and elevation and line of sight and cover and deployment and range tools and okay, even I'm getting bored as I'm listing all of this off. Explain as little as possible as what they need to do in order to take a turn. And you should have brought models that you know fairly well, like the core set. If you don't know them very well, don't bring them to a learn to play event. Like that's not a good idea for you. You can just say, hey, there's going to be stuff that comes up as we're playing. I'm going to explain. Like, you shouldn't be explaining combat on turn 1 of Shatterpoint. Like, why are you explaining combat? Are you going to do combat on turn one? Okay, well, I'm looking at you, DTE, and some other mean characters, but don't bring, don't bring,
Iden.
don't bring Iden to a learn to play event, people. Like, what are you doing? But you get the idea, right? Like do it incrementally. Teach them what they need to do the first turn. Then teach them what they need to do the second turn. Bring it up over time so that they don't feel overwhelmed all at once.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I stack the deck in the way that I do, so that I can sit there and be like, okay, here's what's happening here. Here's how this works, and go from there, so that each player can kind of see what's going on, and you're teaching a different aspect of the game every time. So yeah, definitely the way to go. Do you have any other closing thoughts though?
Just remember that what people are going to remember is the story and not the mechanics. They're not going to remember everything that you taught them that day, and that's okay. Are you kidding me? I still had to stop a couple of times on Friday night and on over at Matt's house. I had to clarify lockdown because I hadn't really played with a character with lockdown before. So I was asking, of course, I was asking Jerry. Jerry's our lockdown expert here locally. And then, what was the thing I was asking Matt about? I don't even remember. But my point is even experienced players don't know everything about this game. That's okay. But they're going to remember the story. At Phoenix Fan Fusion, we have I have the toy AT-AT, and I set it just like next to the table because it's kind of awkward to play on. But and you know what most people remember? They remember that AT-AT. They're like, "What's this game?" And then they come over and they look at it, and so then I tell them, I'm like, "Oh, so like, say Obi-Wan and Maul are fighting, or Anakin and I don't know, Anakin and Saj are fighting on a table." I'll be like, "Oh yeah, Asajj just gave Anakin that scar he has on the side of his face, and now he's pushing him off of the building, and everybody cheers." Like, you lean into the fun of the game. These are games; they're supposed to be fun. So make sure be a little showboaty. I know not everyone's like that. It's not your personality. I'm a children's librarian. I spent half the time entertaining the children instead of teaching them how to play. But remember that the story of how they felt during this Learn to Play event is often more of a deciding factor on whether or not they're going to come back to the game than the game itself. Now, if they don't like the game, they're not going to like the game. Move on. That's okay. I've had Learn to Play events where a guy's like, "I don't understand this cover system. I don't understand this line of sight. I don't understand Hunker. I don't like any of this." I'm like, "Oh, okay, well, then Age of Sigmar or MCP or like, yeah." I'm like, "Oh, yeah. Okay." I mean, that like, don't argue with them. Don't be like, "No, my game's better." Like, no, like there's other games you can play. Then that's all right. That's okay too. Yeah. But
if it's
be
not
positive.
for you, it's not for you. Yeah. Not everyone's going to love the game. Some people are just it's not going to be for them, and you just move on. But yeah, well, I guess that's a good spot to close out then there. Definitely, I agree though, like the experience and the, they're going to remember whether they had fun or didn't have fun. And that's ultimately what you're really aiming for, is to make sure that they had a good time doing it. But yeah, to kind of close things out, as always, I like to thank all of our listeners for listening and spending an hour or so with us every week, listening to us ramble about Shatterpoint and the things that we like about it. If you want to support the podcast, the best way to do so is to become a patron. It is as little as $1 a month. If you want to sit there and help support us and keep us running, if that's not something that works for you, we definitely understand, but you can definitely support us by rating and reviewing the podcast on whatever podcast platform you are listening to us on, or if you were watching us on YouTube, like, subscribe, do all the good stuff to make the algorithm say, "Yay, you like Shatterpoint and you like Momentous Struggle." So we definitely appreciate all of that stuff. But as always, again, I do want to thank you very much for listening. And remember, when you're doing a Learn to Play, you always need to remember that this is where the fun begins.
May the force be with you.